Hello, and thank you for watching Fit Health OF News, bringing you all the latest in health, fitness, and relationships from across the country. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about a drug that side effects may include criminal behavior. We're going to talk about a treatment for chronic pain that may really be beneficial to pain patients. We're going to talk about red and white wine and which one is actually healthier for you. We're going to talk about how relationships are being impacted by politics in 2025. And we're going to end on a top 5 list. All right, let's get started. Our lead story tonight in current events is that dopamine agonist drugs, often given for movement disorders like RLS, which actually affects roughly 1 in 20 people, these apparently might cause impulsive and even deviant behaviors. A report by the drugs firm GSK, this was also seen and published by the BBC. It shows that it learned in 2003 of a link between these medications known as dopamine agonist drugs, as I said before, and what is described, they describe as deviant actual behaviors. Such behaviors are known as they describe as risky sexual behaviors, as well as excessive gambling, even things like shoplifting. So, I mean, this is excessive shopping, things like that, or shoplifting. I mean, so this is some really serious side effects we're talking about, and some of these behaviors even included criminal type of behaviors. So yeah, I mean, if this is a drug that you're taking, definitely talk to your doctor or look more into this. In other news, as of March 6th, there have been a total of 222 measles cases reported by 12 jurisdictions across the U.S. Measles numbers are growing; they're getting higher as well. They keep climbing each week we report. Definitely something to watch out for too. In other news, the bird flu. We're still talking about that in the news. We're still not really talking about much in the way of human transmission, but we are seeing impacts. Egg prices have soared. If you notice in the store, egg prices are really going up. We're seeing about them averaging about $8 a dozen, and birds are dying as well. So, what do you need to know about the bird flu? A lot of people are asking questions like, is it safe to eat poultry? Is it safe to eat dairy? Things like that. And the answer is yes. These types of the bird flu, is usually tested for, by the people who are, you know, giving us these types of meats and things like that. However, on top of that, the virus is cooked out when you cook. They just suggest that you don't eat runny yolks, things like that. Just cook your eggs thoroughly. All right, in other news, influenza numbers are also down. Of course, influenza is still an issue as we get to the end of the season. However, numbers are down, and that is looking better. However, in other news, as while the flu is down, we are looking at some other viruses. Actor Gene Hackman's wife, Betsy Arakawa, died from a respiratory illness linked to the hantavirus. The hantavirus is a virus seen in rodents. It can be gotten from dry rodent feces, urine, or saliva. It can also spread through scratches or bites, but that's a more rare way of transmission. The virus causes either a pulmonary illness or a type of hemorrhagic fever, and Gene Hackman's wife died from the pulmonary illness. So that's very tragic, a very tragic story. In other news, long COVID has been in the news. An estimated 17 million Americans suffer from long COVID. It's known to cause over 200 different symptoms. So, if you're somebody who had COVID and you're feeling some sort of illness that is lingering, that is something to talk to your doctor about, is because long COVID is a potential there. Our lead story tonight in health is that researchers looking for an alternative pain reliever. Opioids are obviously not working, so we're looking for something else, and they're looking actually at cannabis as an alternative. They're looking at a cannabis compound that can actually offer pain relief without the side effects or the psychoactive properties of like getting people high. So this is actually looking very promising, and they think that it could help the estimated 50 million people in the United States who suffer from chronic pain. So we will stay tuned and keep an eye out for new developments in this treatment. In other news, researchers have found that if you were abused as a child, this doubles your risk of health issues later in life. Basically, conditions such as angina, arthritis, COPD, things like that. And so, even after adjusting for things like age, race, income, all those things, your risk is still doubled had you experienced a form of childhood abuse. Also, along the same lines, another study found that 1 in 3 young people are already living with some form of chronic health condition. These are conditions like ADHD, autism, asthma, prediabetes, or depression, anxiety. So, the young people in this country are really faced with a heavy burden here. So, unfortunately. In other news, researchers have found a link between Epstein-Barr virus and MS. Of course, we already knew there was a link, but they kind of have found why there was a link. Um, Basically, they found that there is a specific protein called EBNA1 that can inadvertently react with smaller protein in the brain called glial cam. And this probably contributes to the development of MS. So this is really interesting and maybe could help us understand both diseases better and help develop better treatments in the future. In other news, researchers also found basically that the herb rosemary could help with Alzheimer's because of its properties in helping with memory. Rosemary contains carnosic acid. So basically, they're trying to be able to make it in pure carnosic. That word's hard to say. Acid is too unstable to be used as a drug. So scientists at Scripps Research were able to synthesize this more stable form, and that is called DIACCA, which I'll put on the screen here. And that is able to be converted in the gut before going into the bloodstream. So by doing that, they might be able to actually use this as a treatment. So it's pretty interesting. Our lead story in fitness, researchers are trying to basically utilize the advantages of brown fat. Brown fat basically helps burn calories and regulate body temperature, while white fat stores energy. So they were able to take mice and remove a specific like gene protein from these mice, and those mice produced more brown fat. And because of that, these mice actually were able to get 30% better exercise. They were able to build muscle better, and it had improved exercise capacity, and they even had 20% better lifespan. So they're hoping to replicate these results in humans via medication or something like that, so we can also get the advantages of having, this better brown fat. So it's interesting, and we'll stay tuned to see how this progresses. In other news, other researchers are asking the question: is red meat bad for you or is it good for you? Because this has pretty much been a debate for quite a long time. We all know that red meat is a really essential source of amino acids and and iron. So is it good for you or not? Well, the study found that when consumed in moderation, it's really good for people, especially those who are looking for muscle growth and athletes. However, it's really important to follow dietary guidelines, for your age and things like that, because when you consume it too much, or you consume too much processed red meat in particular, it can really, there's almost like a diminishing returns here, and it can start to really have negative impacts on the health when consumed too much or consuming too much processed. Along the same lines, other researchers wanted to ask the question: is red wine or white wine, better for you, or is one worse for you? And the study found that basically there's no overall increased cancer risk with white wine or red wine. However, there was a little bit of a distinction when it came to skin cancer risk. Specifically, white wine had a tiny bit of increased risk of skin cancer, but not red wine. All right. Another study found, this one I found really interesting. Basically, it was in evaluating the health of plant-based meals. They went to 561 restaurants that had omni or veg. They classified them as omni or veg eateries, and on average, these eateries, all 561, when they did average the score, gave it a health score out of 10, and the score was based on how many deep fried ingredients, saturated fat ingredients, and refined grains it had. And the restaurant scored an average of 3.2. Okay. And only 2% of eateries scored a 10. So before you go to one of those vegetarian or, vegan eateries, make sure that you actually see that the ingredients are healthy, because, this analysis says that it's not always healthy. However, along the same lines, another study found that swapping butter, like animal butter, with a plant-based oil can actually be really beneficial for your health. So when cooking at home, opt for a plant-based oil if at all possible. All right, in other news, researchers found that our circadian rhythm actually impacts muscle recovery in addition to impacting other aspects of health. So, if you're somebody who's like a shift worker or you have some sort of, health issue that impacts your sleep wake cycle, this is something to look into because, in addition to impacting other health factors, our muscles are also impacted by our circadian rhythm. Our lead story in relationships, the Netflix reality series Love is Blind is in the news again. This time it's because of one couple, Sarah and Ben, who seemed like they were doing pretty well for the most part. However, they did not say yes at the altar. Specifically, she didn't say yes at the altar because of their differing political views and social views and their differing views on what they believe is important regarding religion and things like that. So this is a big story that's in the news right now. A poll that I found, a 2024 Inner Body poll, found that 60.5% of respondents say that if their partner has a different political view, then that is a deal breaker. What about you? Would you break up with somebody over their political views? All right. In other news, a study another research study asked, does getting off social media make you happier? It's an interesting question. The study analyzed 10 publications from 6 different scientific repositories, and all those together had almost 5,000 study participants. However, when they were evaluating, whether or not people would have a positive or negative, impact by getting off of social media, they only analyzed people getting off for between 1 and 28 days. So they didn't find any positive or negative impact. However, I feel the study might have needed some more time, to get. So the answer to the study was no positive or negative overall impact. However, keep in mind the study was only for between 1 and 28 days. All right. In other news, the way we communicate with our dogs is being tested here by the Arizona State University. Basically, what they found is that we humanize our dogs' feelings a little too much. They were able to put dogs in different settings and then remove the background picture, just like kind of how Apple can do that, or your iPhone can do that. And then place the dog in a different picture. And so basically, there would be a picture of a dog with a vacuum cleaner, and the dog would be scared. But then they would take that dog out of that picture and put it in a scene where he would look happy, like with a treat, and say, "Hey, do you think your dog's happy?" And the owners would get it wrong a lot because they would base it on the scene instead of on the dog's emotions. So we do humanize our dog's emotions, the study found. So that was interesting. All right. In other news, companies like Match.com are coming up with more AI. Actually, Match Group has announced that it's going to be investing more in AI, and it's going to be coming out with new products that's launch soon. And those products are going to help, daters who need a wingman or who need somebody who need AI to help them choose which photograph might be better, or maybe to get some coaching. So, if you are a dating app user, you might be getting some help from AI very soon, or more help from AI very soon. For this week's top 5 list, we're going to talk about the top 5 easiest ways to get in shape without changing your life too much. Okay, number 5, switching to sugar free beverages. Now, this means all beverages, including energy drinks, alcohol, soda, tea, all of it. Okay. Now, they've come out with a lot of really good sugar free options. So that means if you're a wine drinker in particular, you're going to have to get rid of that and change it out for like a seltzer or something. And there are excellent sugar free options out there. If you like soda, switch it out for diet. If you like tea, switch it out for a sugar free option, some sort of artificial sweetener option. Artificial sweetener, of course, is not perfect, but it is a much better option, and it really reduces calories big time when you cut out your sugar for artificial sweetener. All right, number 4, getting rid of bread. I know it's a tougher ask, but there's so many great options for lettuce wraps and things like that. Like a hamburger on a lettuce wrap really does taste delicious, and if you can just cut that out, you can still have the French fries or whatever side you want. But just getting rid of that bread, it really makes a huge difference when you go out to eat at a restaurant or or you have some fast food. Number three, okay, when you go like to the store or something like that, park far away. Don't find the closest spot. Find the farthest spot and walk the entire length of the parking lot. Number two, take the stairs instead of taking the escalator or the elevator. Of course, if you have to go like 30 flights or something, take an elevator. But I'm talking about if it's just a couple flights, don't bother having to, you know, waiting in the the elevator or escalator. Just take the stairs and you know and number one, I know this is going to sound like squat on the toilet, especially if you're for a lady. Squatting, is it's for every time you pee, and I'm talking about even when you pee at home. It makes a huge difference on the muscles in the hips and the thighs and the glutes in the back. And if you just do it every time, eventually those muscles build up. All right. So there's our top 5 list for the week. Those are the top 5 ways to get in shape without trying too hard. Of course, there's always a little bit of try in there. I hope that helps. See you next week.